Welcome back to Hooks and Ladders with Blair and Allister. Today we're going to talk about recording those songwriting ideas so they don't get lost. Blair, how do you generally safeguard yourself from forgetting those great ideas once you have them?
Well, the great ideas, I haven't had one of those in a long time, but no, I use a variety of methods, and really I'm scattered. I like to think I'm a typical artist in that way. That's my justification, but really I'm just disorganized. But I have notebooks scattered around the house, but I have a primary notebook that is sort of the one that I'm using right now. During the day I might do that, but lying in bed at night, I will record to my iPhone, or I have a notepad and a notepad and a pen, always at the ready, just in case, because I have had that experience where I've woken up and thought I've had a really strong idea, and then not written it down because it's so strong, I'll remember, and then I don't. So yeah, between those things, that's how I capture the initial idea. Or I may go to OnSong, which is the app I'm using. It's an OS X app that I use for really for constructing the whole song. So the notebook stuff, the iPhone stuff, it'll all end up in OnSong anyway, ultimately.
An on-song is great, in fact, because it lets you put chords above your lyrics, and it's set up so that when you play this thing live at the next open mic, hey, well, there's your lyrics and there's your chords, and you can change the song afterwards. On song, I think I may have turned you on to on song years ago,
You may
and
have,
this
yeah,
is
yeah,
this is
yeah.
beginning to sound like a commercial for on song, but it really is a great app at what it does. It was intended to be something, to be your crib notes when you're on stage performing, organizing your set list, organizing your lyrics, and they do a great job of that. So I can't say enough good things about that app.
Yeah, it's got a built-in metronome. I think it has a built-in recorder. I'm not sure, but or maybe that's an add-on or something. I'm not sure. I don't use that because I already have my iPhone voice memos, and I have Pro Tools, and so I've got a lot of recording options. But I find it really, and really great. It can scroll while you're playing. You can set the scroll rate so that you don't need to stop playing to turn the page or to scroll the page or anything like that. And as you say, the chord symbols, you can highlight different words in different colors. What I do is, as I'm putting the song together, if I don't like there's a line that I'm using as a filler line, but I don't really like it, and I think it has to change. I will change the color of that line so that I can remember that that's a dodgy set of lyrics there, and
That's a great idea while you're in the process. I know from my own perspective, my memory is a terrible thing. The memories may go in, and I can't find them, or maybe they just don't go in. I don't know the answer to that question, but the bottom line is that if I don't write it down, if I don't record it, I'm not remembering it the next day.
yeah.
Even, even if I was really jazzed about it in the moment, it's a great song idea.
I've had story ideas as I'm drifting off to sleep. Stories for maybe a screenplay or something like that. I'm drifting off to sleep, and I record them, or sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I think, oh, that'd be a good story, whatever it is in my head, and I record it, and sometimes it's absolutely ridiculous. So it's not like everything you come up with in your sleep is going to be genius. Trust me, at least not everything I'm going to come up with. But yeah, I think it's incumbent on you to remember these things. The difference between somebody said, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody said about creativity. They said ideas are a dime a dozen. They even said, I think, great ideas are a dime a dozen. Implementation is priceless. And I think they might have been talking about marketing or something icky like that. But great ideas are pretty common, but it's the people who follow through and get them done and present them to other people, because really that's what this is. Songwriting is a communication art. It's not just for you. If it was just for you, you just have to have the idea and think, yeah, that'd be a good song, and then go back to sleep. But it's about reaching other people, touching them, making them feel things that feel the way you do, and so forth. And it's the implementation. So putting ideas down is the very first step, and it's necessary. If you just think, yeah, that's a good idea, and then move on with your day, you're no closer to implementation than anyone else.
Yeah, yeah, and in my case, I'm way closer to losing the idea entirely if I don't get it, if I don't capture it.
Right.
And it's fact, it's even more than just singing into my voice notes, because If what I feel in the moment is dependent on, a groove, a tempo, a particular instrument playing, those are ideas that I need to capture as well, so that I have the context later. Because otherwise, I come back and I just don't feel the excitement that I had when the idea was fresh.
I think you and
Maybe
I
it was a
are.
bad idea.
Yeah, maybe, but listen. I've recorded whole masters, like master recordings on 2-inch tape in a 24-track studio, where later I thought, ooh, that's horrible. You can dress it up as much as you want, but it's still not going to be good sometimes. But you and I think, are more old school songwriters in the sense that both of us can write a song without an instrument. We can come up with a melody and words, and we'll know where the chords are supposed to go roughly. Of course, it's going to sound better and be fleshed out when we add the chords, but we can actually do the writing per se. And again, writing is just commitment. You're committing to an idea. You're making a decision. You're not. I don't know about you, but I'm not writing anything down other than the lyric idea. But there are lots of songwriters today who need a groove, who need a set of chord changes in order to come up with lyrics and melody. And nothing wrong with that. Just it's more dependent on that in a way that maybe we don't need if we're lucky. So they would need something to sketch out a groove, sketch out a set of chord changes. I've used GarageBand for that myself, but you're in the PC world. So what do you use if you're sketching out a groove?
I'm a Cubase user, so I'm typically in Cubase, and I have so many different sources of whether they're pre-recorded loops or whether they're, it's a MIDI drum machine. But it's funny because you were talking about writers that are inspired by hearing the chords and the groove.
Mm-hmm.
It made me think that sometimes when I have the spark of an idea for a song, you and I may have talked about this before. Oftentimes, when I'm encouraged to write a song, is when I hear a song that gives me an idea for, oh, that idea, I would have taken it in a very different direction.
Yeah.
But what is useful to me sometimes when I'm writing down the quick notes about, oh, these are my first ideas for this song. Sometimes I write down, and this is what I was listening to before I had this idea.
Ah, interesting.
Not because I'm trying to grab it and steal something from it, but because that may help me get back into that moment that I was in when I thought this was a great idea to write this song.
Right. I understand.
It could just be the way the groove was making me move, that I want to write something that makes me move in that same way, or it could be that the topic that the lyric was touching on.
Yeah.
So these are all things that I may write down when I'm saving my ideas.
Right.
Unfortunately, maybe you and I have this in common too. Is I don't have exactly the organization that one might think when they meet me. I do have too many devices and too many places to write down my ideas. So I do have voice notes on my phone. I do have notes on little pieces of paper. That used to be calendars, the pieces you pull off a day-by-day calendar. You can write notes on the back. I save everything, so I've got this stack of paper and I'm writing my notes there. The idea is they're not all in the same place.
Yeah.
And this is something that works against me in my creative process, and so I encourage others to try and do better than me, which is to try and keep your ideas at least in a place where you know where to find them. Whether that's a folder on your computer or whether that's a notebook that is stacked with other notebooks.
Right. I gotta say though, I'd be suspicious of somebody of a songwriter who was super organized. To me, it's antithetical to being an artist. To me, my mom was a painter and a successful one who showed, who made her living as a painter and who showed in prestigious galleries and so forth. She was pretty organized, but even she was pretty scattered at the same time. And I've known lots of successful songwriters whose system of organization is pretty similar to ours, scattered all over the place. They use the iPhone, but they kind of hate it. And so they have notebooks, but they kind of hate those because they're notebooks and they're not as visceral as a voice recording or whatever. So yeah, I would encourage people basically, don't do what I do what I say, and be more organized. But, you'll have to put up with me being a little suspicious of you.
We know how to compensate for our own disorganization, but we certainly wouldn't encourage anybody else to be. as
Yeah,
disorganized.
you don't, if you're teaching, you don't want to encourage people to have bad habits. There's no question. It doesn't mean that your teachers don't have bad habits themselves. You know,
Right.
inevitable, I think. Yeah. So when you go to record, like how soon do you decide, okay, I'm going to go further with this in Cubase and I'm going to make a master or, a final?
I usually won't do that until I have rewritten and rewritten and rewritten. I work with the song in its simplest form before I reach for arrangement, but maybe because I'm a little afraid that my arrangement might be a crutch
Yeah.
for a song that isn't fully ready. So I'm at the keyboard and singing, or on those rare occasions when I noodle on a guitar, I'm on a guitar and singing
Hmm.
until I know that all the pieces are together.
Right. That is a very disciplined way of going about it, and I admire that because I have to say I for me it can happen anyway. One of the songs, it ended up being the lead off song on my last album. It's not like it's had massive success since then, and then it was covered by Bon Jovi. It wasn't. It's not like that, but it's a song I'm proud of. I'm very happy with the way it turned out, and it started because I decided I wanted to have a song that had a lot of eighth notes in the bass. So I put up a drum groove and I literally went, and this of course isn't a bass, but I, literally went, and I thought, I'd like it to descend. So I had to descend and lots of eighth notes and pumping away and so forth. And only then did I come up with any lyrics for it. Now that's very unusual for me, but it ended up being a song that I'm really proud of. I've had other songs where I've done a whole song construction in a sequencer with keyboards and guitars and so forth, and then come up with lyrics and melody, afterwards. But most of the time, what I do is I come up with lines, usually the lyric and the melody at the same time. Do you do that, lyric and melody at the same time?
Oftentimes, yeah, oftentimes I can't resist.
Yeah.
It,
I
it,
mean,
it would be an effort to try and do one without the other.
right. Yeah. 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 I when I worked in a recording studio full time, which was admittedly a long, long time ago, I would sometimes start. I'd have a drummer come in and play a groove, and I'd play bass, and I'd go through the motions of a song, and we'd sort of hammer out, what the shape of the song is. Okay, and I'd say onto the microphone, which wasn't being recorded because I would be in a separate room or in the control room probably, and I'd say, okay, here's the chorus, and the drummer would do a fill into the chorus and so forth, and we'd construct this thing, which we can do a lot more easily now. But the point is, I would do that on 2-inch tape in a big time recording studio. I had the luxury of doing that because I had a gig there, but without any more of a plan. I think it's because I had read about, like, well, the Beatles doing that, Fleetwood Mac, people, constructing their songs in the studio. And I used to think, wow, wouldn't that be a great luxury? And I tried it, and sometimes it worked, sometimes not so much. More often than not, for me, not so much. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think your method is probably the preferred method, or maybe the method that's going to ensure more, a more satisfying end result. Making sure all the pieces are in place.
Yes, yes. Now, having said that, as I go through the process, I'm recording, during at every time that I sit down at the piano. If I start on a Monday, and I have the skeleton of it, I'm pulling out the phone and I'm recording me playing it on piano so that I don't forget what I came
Right.
up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as I polish it, as I build it, I'm recording it again and again and again.
Yeah.
Um, and what I find useful to me is the ability to do it on my phone. I just open an app and boom, I'm ready to record, so that I'm not slowed down by finding a microphone and a mic cable and a mic stand and starting up
Yeah.
the computer and wait a minute, there's an email. Because we can all be like squirrels, it's shiny, shiny.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
suddenly
Yeah.
that idea that we had is a little bit diluted by something else that's just invaded our consciousness.
Now, I'm curious. You don't leave a microphone set up, at all times, just in your studio, because you're the only person using the
I
studio.
do.
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because I.
in front of me it's off camera, but in front of me I have my stage piano, hooked up to the computer, and it has a terrific facility for actually recording. So on the piano itself, I've got a USB stick plugged in the back. I press record, I can record ideas, and then I can go about my day. So I do have a USB stick filled with piano ideas.
Really? That's good. I'm actually looking to get a new controller, a new MIDI controller. So I may ask you about that. I may pick your brain about that. Okay, well, so I hope this has been helpful. I think we've covered the sort of notebook versions. Neither of us can say too much good stuff about OnSong because it's really working for me. So you might want to check that out if you haven't looked into that. There's one that I brought to your attention a while ago called Music Memos. It's an Apple thing, and it adds chords and drums, or no, bass and drums to your
It's
chords.
remarkable.
It really is. It's quite amazing. So you might want to check that out if it's still available. Even it's an odd little thing, and it doesn't always record or transcribe accurately, but it will come up like with a chord chart and stuff. It's kind of magic. So when it works, so you might want to check that out. But mostly, I think your experience and my experience is probably similar to most songwriters. We scramble around looking for scraps of paper and backs of napkins, and I used to write in the margins of magazines sometimes.
Yeah.
So you do what you can but you make sure that you record that idea somewhere somehow.
You just reminded me that the one day I picked up my car from the mechanic and I was driving somewhere and I had a great idea for a song and I had to pull over and write down my ideas, and all I had with me to write on was the cardboard piece that the mechanic puts by the pedals to stop, any grease or whatever from getting on the carpet. So here I was with this big, greasy piece of white cardboard, and I was scribbling on it with a pencil. We do what we have to do.
Yeah, I drove to Chicago from Toronto. I was feeling sad because my marriage had broken up and I felt like I needed a break. So I was going to go to Chicago alone for the weekend. Not really smart if you're feeling sad, I think, going to a strange and new big city. But anyway, on the drive there, I had an idea for a song, but not only it's an 8-hour drive, or a 9-hour drive. So I finished the song driving, and it's a song I play to this day. I think it's one of my best songs ever, and I wrote it down. I happen to have a notebook in the what I call the bucket, in beside the driver, and so I pulled it out with a pen, and as I'm driving down whatever interstate it was crossing America, I'm like scribbling away. I know I don't recommend it, but
And
it's a really good
hands-free,
song.
hands-free technology, people.
That's right.
Oh,
Well, of
oh,
course, I didn't mention I was driving my Tesla hands-free, and no, not at all. My Toyota, I believe. Anyway,
oh yeah, you were driving it with your niece. I will
yeah,
say one more thing about recording ideas, and
yeah,
this goes to the case where two of you are writing over, say, Zoom,
yes,
before you get to the end of your writing session. Even if your song isn't finished, press record in Zoom, perform or speak what you've got,
yes,
and then you have a recording, captured from in the moment in the meeting.
yes. I've worked with songwriters who insist on having a voice recorder of some sort rolling at all times. Alanis Morissette was like that, and I still have that recording, and it's great. We never finished the song, but it's great, and she's singing away, and it could be no one else but Alanis Morissette.
Right on.
So I treasure it. Anyway, all right. Well, I think this has been good. I look forward to talking to you again.
Likewise, likewise.